Should Travis Hunter be a wide receiver in the NFL, a DB in the NFL, or possibly both? We discuss and debate next. Welcome to Locker Room Talk, everybody. Thank you guys for joining us. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And we all know the NFL draft is almost upon us.
Close.
Got a lot of coverage, going to get in some player profiles, do a couple mocks, figure out, try and get in the mind of some of these GMs and decision makers. But one of the hottest topics, I think, and this is the first time we've had this since, I really can't even remember, is a guy that was able to play both ways. They call him the Shohei Ohtani of college football, Travis Hunter. What should he play in the NFL? And, a lot of sports shows, they'll be like, hey, you take this idea, I'll go opposite of it. We actually all have a different idea of what Travis Hunter should actually do in the NFL or what position that he should play. So, in my opinion, I think he should be a wide receiver full-time. Now, I'm not saying you can't throw him back there on, Hail Mary to stop, like you would put a big wide receiver in there to bat down the ball or something like that situationally. I'm not closing that out of the door, but I think he should play wide receiver. Blaine, you think he should just play DB?
Well,
and
not
corner,
just
right?
play DB. I feel like you can have a package for a guy on offense if you really want to do that, but I don't think he should.
So more than not, he should play defense.
His main position should be defensive back. Let me hear you holler.
And Coney, you think he actually has a chance to play a decent amount both ways?
Let's just play both ways.
I don't think that's a crazy thing to say.
I don't. He could.
So we want to know in the comments, what position do you think Travis Hunter should play mostly? I'm not even going to say full time because there's a little more nuance than that. But my argument for him playing wide receiver, and to me it's kind of three-pronged. We have clips on here I'm going to get to in a second. But the first is the way that the rules are in the NFL. The rules are much more conducive to having success as a wide receiver than they are as a defensive player in general, but especially at DB. I can't touch guys when they're more than 5 yards down the field, which is egregious to me as a former secondary coach. I think that rule is absolutely terrible. But the wide receiver is going to get the benefit of the doubt more times than not when it comes to pass interference as well. The level of physicality that you can play with these guys as a defender as opposed to a wide receiver, I don't think is even close. And they do that for a reason because points sell tickets and get higher views or whatever. But the way his body is constructed, from a tackling standpoint, from being able to get off of a block at this level now in the NFL, I don't know if he can physically hold up playing DB as much as he can as a wide receiver. And I know what you're going to say. Oh, well, wide receivers get hit all the time. Y'all know this better than anybody. When you get hit really hard, sometimes it actually hurts less when you get caught clean as opposed to getting rolled up or swiped on the ankle or anything like that, or falling on a knee or falling on an elbow. But tackling somebody is so different than being tackled. So I think in the long term, if you're going to make this type of investment in a player like Travis Hunter, the physical aspect of it is big. And then I just think he's better at wide receiver, guys. Watch him go up and get this ball and hold on to this ball in a big moment in between two guys. Bodies contorted, catches the ball at its highest point. His instincts at wide receiver and as a pass catcher to me are so elite. This to me is the most impressive one. And this was week 1 against North Dakota State. This catch is incredible. There's no space. He somehow reaches back and catches this basically with one hand while the defender is pressed on the ball. That shows you hand strength. It's absolutely elite. And then his run after the catch. All right, this is once again against North Dakota State. I know North Dakota State isn't going to win any track medals against other countries. They still have some pretty damn good athletes. Let's watch Travis Hunter after the catch here. Go ahead and play it. You get a quick little hitch. I'm going to make one miss, then I'm going to turn it on. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's 4.38 is what he is. He's 4.38, possibly 4.36. He has breakaway speed. I just think him as a wide receiver guy, that's what I would play him mostly at on the next level. And I've been saying that for 2 years.
I do think, and I agree with a lot of what you're saying here. And I do think like that catch in the end zone, if you want to line him up one-on-one in the red zone, I'm fine with that. But Travis Hunter, he's 6'1", 180 pounds soaking wet. All right? 10-plus catches a game, he will get beat up. He will get beat up throughout a season. You will. It's a lot harder as a receiver to catch 10-plus catches a game and get hit every time you catch the ball than to go play cornerback. What do cornerbacks don't get paid to do? tackle. They don't.
Not on the bad
They
defense.
don't. They don't. It gets said every day. When I look at Travis, and a lot of it's to me from a spotlight standpoint, obviously you would think you'd get more spotlight at receiver. I don't think so. Champ Bailey, Darrell Revis, Charles Woodson, Jalen Ramsey. The gold jackets are there. And the best way to get your spotlight is by taking somebody else's spotlight. And when it comes from a field standpoint, his field at DB is just as good as receiver. He has the hands of a receiver. He is violent at the attack when he comes down and does tackle. He has the speed. He has the hips of a receiver. And I do think you can be different. There's a lot of 6'1", 185-pound guys running around out there at receiver. There is. It's so much harder to find a guy who you can just point and say, take him away for the entire game. The entire game doesn't matter. You can follow him, you can trail him, or take away a side of a field. And Travis Hunter, the unicorn that he is, you don't find guys like this, especially at the DP position, who's tall, who has such great feel, who has great ball skills, especially when the ball's in the air, and who can bait quarterbacks like this. It's so hard to teach guys to be able to bait. We have some clips here. I believe you have 3 clips here, just like you had a receiver. All right, let's go ahead and run these. Some of this is just impossible to teach. It's impossible to teach. He's up top here, all right, guarding the outside guy, back turned. Go ahead and run this. This is against Colorado State.
Looks like man free.
All right, inside pocket, boom, attack, flip your hips, come on, ball, hands, run. You don't find corners that can do that, who can flip their hips like that, stay inside, get their eyes turned, come up, elevate, extend, and catch. Already baiting a receiver right here. Run it. Sees the ball.
Taking back on him, yeah.
Just there. Around. Superstars know how to be around the play when it matters most, and he catches the ball when he gets a chance. Most of the guys who play DB want to be receivers, but they can't catch. This is the complete opposite when it comes to Travis Hunter. Run this. Feel, attack, finish. Yes, yes. He will be remembered if he's a receiver. He will be a legend. Gold jacket if he's a defensive back.
Okay. So I'm going to make the case that he should play both ways then, huh? Okay. Let's just go back to the start of this. When he followed Deion Sanders to Colorado and the narrative became, well, he's going to play both sides of the football for the entirety of a game. I laughed at that. I said, there's no way, like, come on, people who really know football know he's not going to do that. The most he's going to do is he's going to be a full-time DB because that's what he got recruited at. And then, for big moments, he's going to play wide receiver, or maybe they'll put him on special teams and he'll return punts and he'll do what Charles Woodson did at the University of Michigan, and maybe that's how he wins a Heisman Trophy. But that's not what happened. Ever since the beginning of the 2023 season, he was playing every snap, both sides of the ball, and some on special teams. And then what happened? Throughout the middle of that year, he gets injured. He misses a handful of games. And we sort of said, well, it was impressive while it lasted, but this is what happened. You're playing double the snaps of everyone else in the country. You can't survive for a full season. What good does it do to play both ways all the time for 6 games if you miss the other 6 games because you're injured? Then what happened in 2024? Played every single snap, both sides of the ball, totaling 1,380 snaps for Colorado last year. 670 on offense, 686 on defense, and another 24 on special teams. Again, for a total of 1,380. Led the country by far. 106 snaps per game. Didn't miss much time. Won the Heisman Trophy. I've seen him do it once after I already doubted him. I'm not going to do that again. And plus, you already brought up a pivotal name in this discussion, which is Shohei Ohtani. I grew up loving to hit the baseball. I grew up loving to pitch the baseball. And all I heard since the time I was 6 years old is, well, you better pick one, because at the major leagues, you don't pitch and hit at the same time. And I think that's an American mindset. And now you see Shohei Ohtani coming over from Japan, and he's excelled at both, so much so that he's the superstar of baseball because he's a top pitcher and he's a top hitter. Maybe what we need is for someone to say, you know what, not being able to play both sides of the football like we used to do back in the day in the game, that's just a mindset, and I'm going to be able to do both. Now, I do have the luxury of not having to take into consideration the longevity of Travis Hunter's NFL career. Only he can do that. If you played both sides of the football for 6 seasons, is that the end of your career? Can you have a 10-year career? I don't know. Only he can answer that. I'm just saying with the skill set that he has, he's incredible at both sides of the ball. And the last thing I'll say is for someone who got recruited as a DB primarily, here were his receiving stats last year: 1,258 yards receiving with 15 touchdowns.
Insane. And we've just never had this argument before. So that's what makes it so fascinating to me, is that it's so new. We're not arguing, hey, this guy, we know he's only going to play on one side of the ball full time. Which side should he play? We actually have a legitimate case, like you brought up, to say, well, he could play both. To me, it's a math problem over time, David. If you're a GM that's in your mindset of saying, all right, well, we think Travis Hunter could possibly play both ways. And there's two ways to look at it. One, and you brought it up, are we overpaying a guy, or are we making a mistake drafting somebody in the top 5 that after 6 years is going to be used goods? We hear this with running backs all the time, right? You can't run them to death in the first 3 to 4 years, or they're not going to be useful for the next 6. But in this instance, would you actually get bang for your buck if the guy was able to play both ways for 6 years? Because to me, if one guy plays defense for 12 years and he's a great player and you get 12 years out of him, that's a really good investment when he helps you. But if a guy plays 6 years and he plays both sides of the ball, that is equal to a normal guy's 12 years. So is that usage rate worth it? It's like buying a car. If I buy a Lamborghini and I spend a lot of money on it, or I buy a race car and I spend a lot of money on it, well, if I go put it in a race and I go pedal to the floor for 3 years and I win 2 Daytona 500s and this, that, and the other, and then it conks out in the 4th year, well, that's kind of worth it. To me, it's still a great investment. So I get that argument and that side of it, and it's hard to combat that because we've never been presented with this opportunity. I will say on the Shohei thing, though, Shohei did get injured pitching, right? Yep. So, you do run the risk of that, but you run the risk of getting injured walking down Scotty Scheffler cut his hand open in a bottle of wine. We all risk injuries doing anything. The bigger problem I have is what you said, though.
What?
We've all been there. Endlessly scrolling through fitness influencers selling complicated routines that promise the world but deliver very little. Because the truth is, most of these tips and tricks, they just overcomplicate what should be simple. And that's where Fitbod comes in. Combining the workout planning and tracking you actually need to stay consistent and make real progress. That's what makes Fitbod special. And it also builds workouts around your specific situation. It's customized. The app crafts routines based on your unique fitness journey, your available equipment, and even factors in your recovery time between sessions. Also, their smart technology ensures each workout hits the sweet spot, which is challenging enough to drive great results without pushing you to burn out. Plus, with over 1,000 demonstration videos, you'll never wonder if you're doing an exercise correctly. It's like having a trainer who really knows you, pushing you enough to make progress without burning out. We know this personally, it's a fantastic product, and you need to level up your workout by joining Fitbod today to get your personalized workout plan, get 25% off your subscription, or try the app free for 7 days at fitbod.me/booster. That's fitbod.me/booster. Did you say it's a more burden physically playing wide receiver in the NFL as opposed to playing DB?
Yes, 1,000%.
So let me ask, okay, you believe that. So what happens? You know what? Bring up Blaine's last clip when Travis Hunter's tackling this guy. Go ahead and bring up Blaine's last. Okay, let's say you're in the NFL and they give you a heavy formation.
Okay.
And Travis Hunter is at corner over there. And let's say he's into the boundary.
Okay.
And they run power to the boundary. And it turns out that Travis Hunter's ass is the guy that's got to set the edge with some monster that's pulling. And have it in your back of your mind. You can't cut offensive linemen anymore. So you think over time it is more physical at wide receiver as opposed to corner. And I'm not saying
how
it's
many
like
times is the DB going to have to come up
all
and do this?
The time. Offensive coordinators, Cone, tell me if I'm wrong. Offensive coordinators are finding ways to try and run tighter formations so you can get corners on the edge to be able to have them have to back up and expand that edge. Why do you think people run formation in the boundary? If I see Travis Hunter out there and he says, you know what, I'm not paid to tackle, so I'm not going to pay to tackle anybody, that's going to suck in this situation, or when a guy has to catch a slant.
You know it's harder than that? Being receiver and running crossing and slant routes next to humongous linebackers and safeties for 90% of a game.
So you're gonna run one wide receiver in the middle of the field 90% of the game? Travis Hunter's gonna play Z. He's gonna play outside. They may put him some inside at slot, but he's an outside receiver. And I'm not saying wide receiver isn't physical, but you still have to tackle at DB. You still have to go mix it up. You still blitz. What happens if they send a cat-fire blitz with Travis Hunter and all of a sudden they leave a tight end to chip and he's got to go pass rush against a tight end? Or God forbid a tackle works his way back and turns his ass into Mr. Potato
Beat him
Head.
with speed. He's a tackle.
Just saying that. So do you think a tight end is a more physical position than a defensive end?
No.
Oh, then how can a wide receiver be a more physical position?
That's completely different.
No, it's not. No, it's not. You're both having a tackle.
Is it harder from a physical standpoint to play receiver where you get tackled every time you catch a football than a DB who stands outside of the numbers and just locks the receiver up?
You don't get tackled every time you catch a football.
90% of the time, unless you just skate away from everybody.
This
is not. I promise you, this is not a winning argument.
It's not.
It is more. It's harder to play receiver from a physical standpoint to catch 10 to 15 passes, to be a wide receiver one, and to get hit every time you catch the ball than to go play defensive back who don't get paid to tackle.
So again, and Cone, I got to know what you think from the quarterback position here. But
I'm going offense.
What I'm not understanding is, okay, I know that you get tackled at wide receiver. I know you have to block at wide receiver. But at DB, you have to get off a block and then go tackle someone. At DB, you may lock your wide receiver down, but the running back squirts out and you got to go tackle him. At DB, when they downgrade the formation and tighten everything up, you have to mix it up in the box sometime. So there are way more opportunities where you have to be physical at DB than there are at wide receiver. First off, you ain't catching 15 passes a game. I don't know anybody right now that legitimately is going to do that at Travis Hunter's position over and over and over again. Maybe Devontae Adams. Maybe I mean,
you'll
15
have at
a
least
game.
10 targets a game.
Okay, 10 targets and catches are different. But at the end of the day, to me, you have plays where wide receiver, you just run guys off. You just.
No, it's great. You could be the DB guarding them.
Huh?
You could be the DB guarding them.
But Blaine, you still as a DB, if you run me off, all of a sudden here comes the running back. At DB, I just don't sit there and I'm like, it's a running back. He's running. I've got to go tackle him. They're both incredibly tough positions. And I'm not saying one is soft and the other is not. But the argument that an offensive position outside of offensive line is more physically demanding than a defensive position is nuts to me, at least in my opinion.
These are the only two positions that we could legitimately have this conversation with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even now we're discussing whether or not one person can pull this off at the professional level. But you couldn't have someone who's playing safety and running back. You couldn't have someone who's playing offensive line and defensive line, or quarterback and linebacker. So to be able, as a corner, to be split off, and the tight hashes help a little bit in the NFL with the formation to the boundaries.
Agree with that.
In college, I mean, you can really heavy set to one corner side if you know he just absolutely can't tackle. But wide receiver and corner specifically, not DB totally, because safety is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
But corner and wide receiver, the way Travis was able to do it at Colorado is the only way someone could even pull this off in the league, right?
Yeah.
Wide receiver and DB, you get asked to do the least physically. Quarterback, I mean, you're standing back there, they're all trying to.
Yeah, it depends on the
Well, not only that, but you can be coming off for certain plays.
For sure,
right?
for sure.
You could play 4 of the 8 offensive snaps, right? Like you could come off the field as a corner if you had to. You really can't mess with the cohesion of the offensive line.
Yeah.
Like defensive line, you can run.
That's so, and there's just not enough tight ends to be able to find guys that can be good enough at tight end to be able to just run most guys off. I just too, from a schematical standpoint, to kind of put a bow on this, what do you think is more beneficial to your team? Having a guy that plays mostly wide receiver that you put in defensively in certain packages, maybe at corner, maybe you put him at nickel when it's 3rd and 19 to guard a slot wide receiver to increase your coverage ability like we see when teams go lighter personnel on 3rd and long? Or is it too much of a tendency on offense to have a guy play defense mostly, and everybody stay with me here, play defense mostly, but then you put him in and have a package for him on offense? Because I'm putting you in there to get you the ball.
No,
like, I'm not putting you in there to be a decoy. Or like in the...
You could.
I mean, you could, but are you really getting the usage rate you need out of it? Maybe after he torches somebody for 5 or 6 games, then you use him as a decoy. Now, I do know there's a difference if you know you're going to get single coverage in at the goal line or something like that, and putting him in there and saying, listen, we're going to throw you a 50-50 ball, just, go beat the guy because you're better. I just wonder if the tendency of having him play mostly defense and some offense is just too much.
We had this situation in high school. Our starting safety, John Knox, incredible athlete. We wanted to get him the football and offense a lot, and he did have an offensive package, and he caught a lot of touchdowns that year. But yeah, there were some times where we're like, well, when he's in the game, we know they know what we're trying to do. It's a valid conversation, which that's why I'm going to read off the top 5 picks in this NFL draft, because I would like to know, is it easier to do that if he doesn't have to be wide receiver 1 on that team?
Yeah, and who's playing quarterback?
That's another
what situation are you getting drafted?
So obviously the Titans have the first pick. Sounds like they're going to go Cam Ward, but feel free to talk about them too if you want in this. But then the Browns are 2nd, the Giants 3rd, Patriots 4th, Jaguars 5th, Raiders 6th, Jets 7th. I'm not going to go too much past that because I don't think Travis Hunter gets past that too much.
I don't think he's making it past pick number 3.
You don't think he's making it past 3? I'm so intrigued to see what the Browns do here, because I don't know why. And listen, I don't think it'd be the best situation, obviously, for Travis Hunter to be in, to go to Cleveland. But if you're a team like Cleveland that needs so much, and I know, you owe Deshaun Watson $45 million or whatever it is, regardless of what happens. The quarterback situation there, we know, is a disaster. But to me, if you're a team that needs a lot, taking a guy that can do a lot would make a lot more sense. Or do you leverage him out to, you look at a team like the Patriots, right, that did get Stephon Diggs, right, with Drake May. Does Mike Vrabel see this as an opportunity to go get a guy that, could learn under Stephon too at wide receiver and maybe play a little bit of defense for him? This why the quarterbacks, who's going to go number 1? Is it Shedeur? Is it Cam Ward? Whatever. Who's going to be the second quarterback off the board? Is it Shedeur? Is it Cam? Is it Jackson Dart or whatever? That's a fascinating conversation. But to me, this is the most fascinating one, because I feel like Travis Hunter has so much value because he can do so many different things. What can you get in a trade back for him if somebody really, really wants him in that top 10? Maybe the Jets really want him, or something like that, and put him on the other side of Sauce Gardner at like DB. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know who needs to do what with Travis Hunter. That's why it's so fascinating to me.
Well, we'll see, but I do know it's just so much harder to find a guy who can play corner the way he does than a receiver walking around. Like a guy like him who can shut down a half of a field. You don't find those every now and then. I mean, he's being called a unicorn for a reason. But you being a defensive back guy, which I know you are, it's a lot tougher to find a CB1 than it is a wide receiver 1.
Yeah, because, you're going backwards and they're going forwards. That's the first thing. But, again, it depends on what position I coach. If I'm on the Browns and I'm the wide receiver coach and we're going to take Travis Hunter, my ass wants him at wide receiver. If I'm the DB coach for the Browns and we're going to draft Travis Hunter, I want him at DB. Yeah. So, again, I think it just depends on, what does the biggest team need? Is that the one position you're missing? And if you're picking this early, you probably need a lot more than
If he goes to the Browns, what does he play?
If he goes to the Browns, I think he plays DB. That's what I
Both ways.
Yeah, there you go. I agree. I think he plays DB.
Yeah. All right, let us know in the comments, which position should Travis Hunter play more? It's going to be fascinating because we've never had this argument before, at least one I can remember. And if you can remember one, please let us know.